Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. We're bringing you stories from the world of business, policy and economy. My name is Shweta Kothari. We are ending this year with the year that it was, and which is the artificial intelligence year, the year when AI was at its peak. Remember, AI has had a far-reaching impact on the tech landscape in modern times. In this year itself, OpenAI, ChatGPT, took the market by storm, clocking 100 million monthly users in the shortest possible span of 2 months. Microsoft was quick to ride the bus and pledged its third largest investment in OpenAI at a whopping $10 billion. All of this happened in 2023. Google countered it with Bard and China countered it with Baidu. Later in the year, activists urged to halt the progress in GPT models for at least 6 months and highlighted the risks and challenges associated with AI. Towards the end of the year, conversation steered in the direction of the perils of AI, building guardrails. The world, in fact, woke up to the dangers of AI-generated content, deepfakes, and more. In absence of clear regulatory framework, what is the present future of AI? We will be discussing all of that. Joining us on the show is Umakant, Soni, chairman of AI Foundry, co-founder of AI Robotics Technology. Park. Also joining us is Pranav, founding partner, chief investment officer at 314 Capital. On the show is Nandan, Mishra, founder, Algo 8 AI. Gentlemen, thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out. Thank you for joining us here on News9. Nandan, I want to come to you first. I remember having a conversation with you at the start of this year, and approximately, I think it was in the month of March or April, and we were still waking up to what AI possibly cannot do. Since then, a lot has happened in the tech and AI space. Run us through what were, according to you, the milestones of artificial intelligence.
I think you summed it well. It's almost like an arms race right now. And, everyone is coming up with their own versions. And I think we also have an indigenous initiative now around LLMs, large language models, as we say them. And I think it started with ChatGPT, Google rolling out Bard picking up user adoption. We see Baidu coming up in the race. We see now a lot of open source LLMs coming in. We see now LLMs being trained in vernaculars. So I would say that those were the major highlights, as far as AI development is concerned. I think 2023 was truly the year of AI. ChatGPT's emergence had sent shockwaves across the industry, showcasing the immense potential. But I think it means an immense opportunity for a country like India. So that would be my comments for as far as 2023 and India is concerned. Yeah.
All right. Of course, it means huge opportunities for India. Pranav, what sort of opportunities are we looking at? Now, we're looking at a sort of dissimilarity when it comes to the investments that US has gotten as opposed to investments that have been made in India when it comes to AI development. And there is a large gap between the two. How far is India in matching up to perhaps foreign capabilities when it comes to AI?
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. I think there's two sides to that coin. On the positive side, if you look at even in the US, the leading markets of the world in AI research, on most of the patents, you'll find an Indian name. In many of the companies, the non-profits like OpenAI, there are Indian engineers on the cutting edge. So that's a good news. Indians are definitely on the lead here. But the downside is we have not invested enough in R&D in AI in India itself. Our universities do not have enough patents, enough grants to support such cutting edge research. And of course, if we rely only on private industry, they will do it when it makes commercially viable sense. So we'll always lag the cutting edge R&D in other emerged markets. So I think we need to be a little bit more practical. The good news is that AI is a massive opportunity. We're going to go very quickly from these toy-looking things, chatbots and so on, to live AI agents, AI chips in your phone, vernacular, fundamental language models, all of this working behind the scenes to make each and every one of us more productive. So we're going from this figment of imagination view of AI to a hard-coded, production-based view of AI. I think 2024 year is a year of that transition. And so we need to be prepared. That is going commercial quite fast. It's becoming a reality quite fast. Regulation is woefully behind. We'll see many more executive orders. So I think a lot of interesting things happening. I'm very sure the Indian startup fraternity for sure will join the race and announce some interesting things in 2024.
All right, Umakant, Soni also joining us on the show. Umakant, thank you for taking time out. Now that we have set the ball rolling and we know that enough and more strides have been made in the past couple of months, especially in 2023 alone, I want to understand from you, if you compare the development in AI space, AI and tech space between India and the US, or perhaps its other foreign competitors, where there has been not just a case where AI first started to develop faster, but also more money has been pumped in. Where are we at the moment when it comes to India's AI prowess? And how far are we in the competition? And how soon can we bridge the gap?
So thanks a lot for inviting me here. I'm speaking from the airport, so maybe there will be some noises around. But clearly, I think the moment has arrived. Spent last 15 years in AI space, first as an entrepreneur and then as an investor. And, having backed some of the leading AI companies in India, one of the things that is very clear to me is that you need fundamentally 4 things. You need data, you need talent, you need compute, and of course, you need capital. I think these are 4 building blocks of AI. So if I look at where India has lagged behind, definitely not in data. I think we do have data. We have the most diverse data in the world. We also have the most amount of talent in behind AI. In terms of, if I look at overall, top 100 papers, 11% of them are coming from people from Indian origin. So there is definitely a lot of talent there. If I look at the LinkedIn data, 45% of the global AI developer base is actually coming from India. So there is definitely data, there is definitely talent there. If I look at compute, yeah, we are woefully short of that, and we need to figure out how do we fix compute, because right now there are like 1,000 GPU clusters in India. I mean, even there are you can even count them on hands. Whereas if I look at in US, it's like, I mean, China has 2.1 million GPUs, and that just gives you a scale of gap that we have. In terms of capital, I echo what was being said earlier. Till last year, total $250 billion were spent by US in AI as compared to $7 billion. So they have like 35x more capital behind it. So we need to figure out ways, how do we increase compute and capital in an exponential way if we have to garner the full potential of this AI wave. I mean, it's going to result in $15.7 trillion of new economic value as per PwC by 2030. But if you have to get to $1.5 trillion, if they're talking about it, if you have to get to 30 trillion by 2047, then 15-16 trillion dollars of this new economic value is going to come from AI. So I think as a nation, we have these choices to make. How do we put our egos aside and efforts together? Because machines don't have a nation. It's a global race, right? In that sense, right? I mean, human beings, we have affinity to a land or a country, right? Machines don't. For them, it's one planet, right? They don't have any, one single affinity to. So in that sense, the competition in AI space is fairly global from the beginning. And I was actually jokingly remarking last week to somebody, earlier we would actually export people to US and other places, and now we might be exporting AI companies, and that's the challenge that we need to fight something together.
All right, and now that we've set the ball rolling on where India is when it comes to competition, I want to begin by understanding the journey that AI has taken in 2023. For an average layman out there, it becomes extremely very difficult to map that journey. Easy for people who are tech savvy, perhaps difficult for people who don't understand what large language models are. So let me take you back. Earlier this year, we woke up to this magnificent giant called the ChatGPT, where people, common average people like me, a journalist who has nothing to do with tech, could feed in questions and get tailored responses. This was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen in my life. I think many of my colleagues will agree to it. It made so much of our lives easy while also taking and making us redundant in the process. Cut to mid of this year, you have the GPT-4, you have DALI, you have various other versions where you don't just get text-only response, you also get a visual, you can also get a video, so on and so forth. And this is where the concerns around what AI can do also start emerging. Pranav, talking about the challenges that AI poses and not just the progress that AI has made, we know that various experts, analysts have consistently raised questions on what can AI do if it's put in the wrong hands. And even Sam Altman, for that matter, admitted it in the US Senate that if put in the wrong hands, this can be a menace, an absolute menace. When it comes to AI regulations, now that we are ending 2023, do you think we have enough guardrails in place?
Oh, we're comically behind, I think, on regulation. And it's not surprising to anyone who's been observing this market for the last 3 or 4 years. First of all, there are no rules on how these models are generated in the first place. How are they developed? Just today morning, we were witness to news that New York Times is trying to sue OpenAI and Microsoft for scraping their website and using all of their articles to train the model. There are no rules against that, right? These articles are open on the web. Any one person reading them or an AI agent reading them, it's the same thing. So that's just one example of how woefully behind the world is. And of course, like Uma said, AIs don't care. The robots don't care. The algorithms don't care. They're going to try to sweep everything to penetrate the knowledge base of humanity and execute what we're making them execute. So I think there are a few steps we need to be prepared as individual citizens, and then, of course, as a society and a nation. At the individual level, I think we're already quite aware that data privacy, security, being careful about what we type on social media, being careful about who we add as a contact, being careful about not clicking on links that could potentially be malicious, not sharing our Aadhaar ID, for example, openly, using the masked ID. So I think we've gone through enough education over the last 5 years, but we have not been prepared for how far ahead AI is in being able to learn about us and even spoof us, impersonate us. We've seen deep fakes and so on. It becomes a problem for celebrities and people in the culture. So I think even the training we've been through over the last 5 years on personal security has not been enough to prepare us for an AI vision and AI-enabled future. At the national level, I think we've made some good progress on data security and data privacy. I believe India is the first country in the world which has given citizens very clearly the determination of rights on their own digital data. That's a massive first step. So I own my data, my health data belongs to me, not to my insurance company, my financial data belongs to me, not to the bank that gives me my bank account. That's a big step we've made, and I hope that is a first step of many steps we'll take in an AI-enabled future. But again, we have not made enough steps, not only as a country, but as a species, when it comes to protecting ourselves and our countries from AI. And of course, while these seem like threats, there will be hundreds of startups who see that as an opportunity. So you won't be surprised to hear of many AI cyber security companies being started, AI insurance agents being started to help you negotiate insurance better. So I think this is a difficult situation. I don't think regulators are equipped to be as on top of this as we would hope. So it has to be done with industry. It has to be done with consultancy from people actually building these models. I believe Altman made an interesting point in the Senate hearing when he said, we want to help. Use us, ask us what we can do to help you write the rules. And let's make the rules together. I think that's the only way to make sure we have some semblance of getting ahead of this.
All right, absolutely. While Altman made it very clear that he wants help, it also made it very extremely difficult with the boardroom drama that played out at OpenAI back in the month of November as well as December. What is going to be the future of OpenAI? We want to discuss that. But if 2023 was the year of AI, 2024 perhaps could be about regulations around AI. That's the message coming in. We will, of course, discuss more on that. We'll be back after a very short break.
Yes, the scale of the attack surprised us.
When you get a series of alerts, 16 intelligence alerts, if Maharashtra government at that time had alerted the Coast Guard and the Navy, this 2611 would not have happened at all.
And one of the details they had planned was to use these dhagas to mislead the investigative agencies.
All this was to be presented as a Hindu terror.
So it was a Pakistan operation. The LET was the front end.
the attacks were on, it was clear that they were planned and launched from Pakistani territory.
For all of those victims of terror that was exported from Pakistan over the years, including but not limited to 2611.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
जब हम करेंगे तो पता लग ही जाएगा सलमान खान का करेंगे मारेंगे ही जाएंगे जोधपुर में मारेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा
This is someone who is sitting inside our jails and is still very obviously and openly running and possibly the largest organized criminal operation in the country.
Student organization of Punjab University में सोपू का acting president type भी रहा है.
He was a troublemaker, getting into fights with people, not coming to the class.
As on date, it appears that Lawrence gang is the most important, the prominent gang. Gangs here in Punjab, they are intimidated.
Today, he's India's most dangerous gangster, and India's presence are apparently no bar to how Bishnoi runs India's largest criminal empire.
News is now content. Just stream it. Download the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
जानना है तो देखिए, समझना है तो सुनिए, सीखना है तो पूछिए और कमाना है तो खरीदिए। जानकारी, सलाह और निवेश सब एक ही सुपर ऐप पर। पैसे का सवाल है तो जवाब है Money9। आजादी पैसे की, अभी डाउनलोड करें।
Welcome back. You're watching Business Plus. We are discussing artificial intelligence, the year that was and the year that's going to be. Remember, 2023 has been a pivotal year when it comes to development in AI technology, and the entire ecosystem was uplifted in one way or the other. In November of 2022, world woke up to ChatGPT and the world has not been the same ever since. We are in conversation with Umakant Soni. Also with us is Pranav as well as Nandan Mishra. Nandan, I want to come to you first, and so far in this discussion, during the course of this discussion, we have established where we arrived and where we are at the moment. But let me take you back to the mid of this year, and which is when, and as we left off, challenges started to show up, challenges started to build up, and more analysts were increasingly getting concerned around what AI is capable of, and in wrong hands, what kind of menace and what kind of difficulty and challenge it can pose to the people, to general public at large. Now, deepfakes has been a systemic concern that Indians are also now dealing with. In the month gone by, we've seen deepfakes emerge of various celebrities, from a Kajol to Priyanka Chopra. All have fallen prey to deepfakes, and in all of this, the government, Indian government especially, has been extremely proactive in trying to ascertain what the challenges are and to what extent can AI be regulated. And at the same time, you have the big tech companies also warning that any stringent regulation, which is not a light touch regulation, could hamper the progress that AI is making in India. Where does one draw the line, not just in India, but even in a global context for that matter? Elections are due in the US, elections are due in India. So where do we actually draw a line where we understand the challenges that AI throws on our way, but at the same time also deal with it without really impeding its progress?
Yeah, I think balancing the act is the answer. So I think there is an ethical divide. I'll be very frank. There is going to be a segment which we can call the AI haves, and there will be AI have-nots. That's the truth, from where it starts, the adoption, the early adopters who have adopted AI, And this stands for companies, this stands for even government departments, it stands also for political parties, and parties who are using this now in various forms, and it's happening now. And so there will be AI haves and AI have-nots, and there will be an ethical divide between the two. I think the balancing the act would be around two major areas. One would be the concerns around data privacy. I think it was already mentioned by the other speaker that data privacy should be handled very well, and we have a personal data protection bill around that would be taking care of that. And second is the bias and the disinformation or misinformation that these models are creating. I think handling them would be around how these models are developed, building a platform that can help you know whether a particular content that you're seeing is being generated by AI or not. I think that's an immense opportunity for 2024. But I think consider these three scenarios that are going to happen in 2024. One is that you will have a lot of international collaborations with countries like India pioneering and also working with other international communities using AI for healthcare, climate change, and disaster management. These will be very big things that are going to happen. But there will be an ethical divide. And I think the third bigger risk that for a country like India, which is a service sector country, it has to rapidly develop its skills into a new form, because if we don't upskill and reskill ourselves, there's a significant amount of job transformation and skills transformation that is required. So I think that's where it's all going towards, as far as India is concerned.
So I think the big question then that is who bridges this ethical divide? Umakant, the concern of course being that on one hand we have big countries who have established supremacy when it comes to AI, and then there are countries who are in the race. For example, you have and it's not even a country for that matter, you have the big four big tech companies like Google trying to compete with its Baidu, hasn't been much of a success so far. You have the China, you have the Bard, you have the Baidu, so you have competition. But when it comes to countries and when it comes to data security and data safety, who is supposed to be responsible? Who bridges the gap between what companies are ethically expected to do and what they actually do? Does the ball lie or the buck stop at the countries, or does it stop at tech companies and they taking responsibility for it?
I think in both the ways. If I look at very squarely, I think what we are going to see in 2024 is, as you rightly pointed out, is going to define how the larger society accepts AI, because AI is going mainstream in some way or the other, right? And we have two large elections going to come up in 2024. US is going to go for elections and India is going to go for elections. And there is a very much likelihood, as Pranav was saying as well, like deep fakes. I mean, there are real challenges that we're talking about. And given that in India, a large population may not be very literate, so the danger is quite deep as well. As to how misinformation could be spread, and you could destabilize a country or a society very easily through that. So I think the way I see it is that definitely countries have to beef up, and they have to, of course, create a level playing field for everyone. I think regulations, what they do is that one, they create a level playing field for everyone, and I think right now the level playing fields are not there at all. Right, so the big tech is much ahead, and the challenge is that just like the way human intelligence, right. Of course, AI, or artificial intelligence, is also a kind of intelligence, so it will be dual use in that sense, right? But just like the way we have diversity in human intelligence, we also need diversity in AI as well. So I think it's in interest of the human society that we are able to encourage more and more diversity to come up in the AI space. And that's where regulations play a part in saying, okay, how can I create an equal opportunity for more and more people to create this kind of infrastructure, whether it is in terms of compute or capital ecosystem. So I think that is one part. The second part is companies to regulate themselves. I think so far it hasn't been proven very successful because companies are, by the nature of their company, they're supposed to make money for shareholders, right? So their primary concern is making money for them. So I think the regulation has to be shouldered by the government, and there has to be common consensus among countries. And I think Bletchley Convention was a good, successful, at least the dialogue has gotten started. Having said that, I think for countries which are going to leverage AI for defense, I mean, they're going to have their own sense, right? Which maybe has to do with how do they want to actually, I mean, China has declared that by 2030 they want to be the sole AI superpower, right? And it's a very publicly stated goal. So I think you have to be prepared for both the sides. One, which will actually have deep societal use cases, and they probably would have to be governed by, just like Asimov's three laws. We need to figure out those laws. Then there are going to be cases which, might have to come under Geneva Convention or something like that, right? Where, AI might be used in defense. Like there are countries that are building massively large, simulators, right? It could simulate, how, the assets will play out on air, water, and they're using it to predict, what's the best time to attack or not. And so in that sense, each country would have to decide what is in their best interest in terms of national security. Having said that, there are real challenges in terms of the rogue AI, right? Getting in the hands of, nefarious elements at the same time, right? So I think there are very specific numbers laid out in the executive order that came out, where they said, okay, more than this many floating numbers, the cloud companies have to report to the secretary, or if the cluster is of this size and this kind of interconnects they're using. I was actually very surprised to read such detailed technical documentation in that. And unfortunately, the challenge in a country like India, where we don't even have our own sovereign cloud, right? That maybe these are great for protecting the interest of US, but may not be great for protecting our own interests. So I think we also need to play this balancing act where one, we need to create our own technology innovation ecosystem in India, which is going to create this diversity, converting diverse data into actual diverse AI, not just for India, but also for the globe. Second is that we need to build our own sovereign infrastructure. I think because intelligence is going to power 60-70% of your workflow. So I think it absolutely makes sense that we know what's going on inside those things. So we need to have regulations, we need to have capabilities around it. Maybe we need to, just like the way we have financial trail to determine who's responsible for any action, we need to create a regulation around energy trails, right? Like where this model has been run, or what's the energy signature, where, because you need, just like you need a human body to run our mind, we need compute to run these AI agents as well. So I think both of these have to be taken on a broader,
sovereign infrastructure, a need for regulation. It's not just self-regulation, but also regulation depending on where you are and who you are and what country are you talking about. So every country, each country needs to have its own set of regulations. But when it comes to self-regulation, and Pranav, perhaps you can come in here, it gets very tricky with these big tech companies because they have little to no accountability. And I want to take you back to the entire boardroom saga of Sam Altman. When he was fired from the boardroom, he came back, then fired the members who actually fired him in the first place. In all of that, what emerged was that there was a letter that was written by some of the employees to the board and warning them, in fact, of the dangers of what we now know as artificial general intelligence. The fact that Sam Altman was perhaps very secretly working at something that can challenge the very core competence of us, the humans on this earth. When all of that is playing out, it is dangerous. We don't know. It's untamed. We don't know what's happening behind the closed doors too. So an average person out there, or a government, in any country, especially in India, how careful are we to be of what is to come in 2024 when it comes to future of AI?
I think that's a very valid concern. Up till today, as far as we know in the public arena, these very advanced fundamental models are actually really good predictors. They look at the letters that come before and then they infer what should come next. So they're natural language processing prediction algorithms basically, and they're very good at what they do. But imagine in 6 months if someone announces that we've trained these algorithms to solve fundamental mathematical proofs, which is the only thing humans can do better than these machines today. Machines cannot do fundamental mathematical proofs. Then we are in an era where these algorithms are true black boxes. We cannot explain how they work. They will find out new ways to do things that we cannot reverse engineer. They will truly become autonomous. And when we move into this era of autonomous AI, that's when we have these concerns that you've been talking about, like real intelligence, if you may. And then we really have this separate thing from us, this alien species that lives apart from us. We cannot explain it. It may not be able to, it may not even come to us like explanations or mandates. So while this sounds like a sci-fi movie, I think that's the direction we're going towards. Now, what can we do? Number one, the first question we ask is, can we trust these big companies, small companies, non-profits, whatever they're posing as? Can we trust them with such advanced technology and that they will do the right thing for humanity? Absolutely not. No society has trusted this advanced engineering before and come out of that with good news. We have to be wary. We have to have our governments enforce their sovereignty on such advanced technology. I reckon these advanced algorithms, the direction we're heading towards, will become as potent as nuclear weapons. So I think we have to be aware that no one can be trusted just doing the right thing. We need boundaries, we need guardrails, we need investments from governments and private industry in coming up with common sense rules that all of us can build on top of. And I think it may already be too late. From what Altman and the likes are saying in Silicon Valley, they've already gone far ahead. They're already working outside of regulation. They're already talking about clouds that are dispersed, distributed, and therefore the algorithm cannot be contained. I mean, it all sounds like we're in a sci-fi dystopia already. But the practical nature of this is they cannot be trusted. No one human being should be trusted with such extraordinary technology. We need to move fast. Now, what can India do? I think Uma made some very good points. We are a little bit behind on this. We don't even have a GovSec cloud. We don't have national cyber security defense infrastructure that has bled into our private lives. We still hear about, simple WhatsApp leaks and WhatsApp impersonation. We're still dealing with this on a mass scale. So I think we need to take this at an arms race severity. We need to be a little bit more aware that this is becoming a national priority. Whichever party is in power, whichever year the election may come, I think we need to take this threat a lot more seriously.
All right, need to take this threat a lot more seriously. Nandan, I don't know if you watched I, Robot. It stars Will Smith, but it talks of a similar dystopian world that Pranav has been referring to, where artificial intelligence is so powerful that it's taken over the human world. At what point are we to be scared? At what point are we to be scared of AI and say enough is enough? And are we ever going to come to that point? Because I think the world has finally woken up. 2024, as I summed up earlier, is going to be about regulating AI as much as possible. At what point should we say now it's too late and now we are scared of what AI can do?
Yeah, so I'll divide it into two parts. One are the encouraging signs. So the encouraging signs are that there is growing awareness of the risks. So we see researchers, experts now frequently commenting in in public media. Then there is emerging research on the safety and control. So a lot of researchers are focusing on the safety and control and access of AI and whether these black boxes can be explained or not. The third is basically there are international conversations happening, and there'll be soon agreements, memorandum of understanding being signed. Then focus on ethics and alignment. That's coming. So all of this is people are saying that yes, maybe AGI is a possibility and we should prepare for it. The worrying signs are that there is no lack. So there is actually no consensus on what AGI is, what artificial general even is, because defining the nature of AGI itself is very challenging. It makes it very difficult to effectively prepare for it. In fact, some people say when it will come, we will not know that it has come. I'm very sure that Umakant and others would agree with that. And the rapid pace at which it is evolving, as being pointed out, it's actually already, I know of companies which are actually working on hyperspace markup languages. These are smaller languages or advanced languages to write spatial algorithms, which will require lesser data but are filed far more deeper and can actually integrate with a lot of large language models. There is lack of global regulatory framework around AGI. That's also there. And the existential threat, I would say that it starts, if you look at the need of Maslow's need of hierarchy, it starts from the survival thing. It will start challenging survival when it takes away those jobs, but gradually it will start creating so much impact that we should be afraid of it. Yeah.
Okay, so while we all know what AI can do, we are also now waking up in a new world where AI can perhaps pose a challenge to human intelligence. We are far from it just as yet, but need to be extremely careful of what's to come. AI has been revolutionary, and the advancements that we have seen in the AI ecosystem in the past 1 year are unparalleled. Perhaps 2024 would be the time to build guardrails around AI and its undisturbed, unperturbed power. Nandan, Mishra, Pranav Pai, as well as Umakant, Soni. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking time out. Thank you for joining us here on News9 on this special show. But with that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. Thank you very much for watching.
circumstances that prevailing today in the subcontinent are very volatile, they're very explosive, they're very dangerous.
Pakistanis, they sent Pakistani armies led by Punjabi generals, whether it was General Tikka Khan or General A.K.A. Khan Niazi, to oppress Bengalis in Bengal.
I don't think we can shut our eyes to the situation in a neighboring state.
सिचुएशन काफी इंप्रूव हुई है।
There